here with a screencast on polynomial long division. This is for folks that are away on Friday for student council, and for other people too if they want to review this. So we're going to talk about long division. You might not really remember long division very much if you learned it at all. But anyway, here we go. So is 4 a factor of 13? And how do you know that? Well, I think you could probably say that 4 times 3 is 12 and 4 times 4 is 16. So it's not. But the formal way you've got to do it is you have to see how many times 4 goes into 13. And we know that 4 goes into 13, 4 goes into 13 3 times, right? And then if you notice, I do 3 times 4 is 12, and then I subtract there, and I get 1 as a remainder. Okay, so since we have a remainder equal to 1, 4 is not a factor of 13. So you can do the same thing, algebra, right? Because you've done factoring before, you know what is and what is not a factor. So let's try this with algebra. It's a little bit trickier, but let's go ahead and try it. So let's see, is x plus 2 a factor of x squared plus 6x plus 8. And just off to the side, I want to do some division here. Oh, by the way, if it is a factor, there would be no remainder, right? I just want to do this. How many times does x go into x squared? Okay, it goes in x times, right? How many times does x go into, say, x 2x? And that would go in 2 times, right? Because 2x divided by x is 2. Okay, so let's check this. X plus 2, is that a factor of x squared plus 6x plus 8? And let's look at the process for this. And what's the process? First thing I'm going to do is check how many times does x go into x squared. Well, x goes into, this x goes into x squared x times. And now what I do is, and I'm just going to actually erase this over here now. It doesn't appear that I can erase that. That's interesting. So what I'm going to do, I'll write it over here. So what I have to do here now is go x multiplied by x plus 2. Okay, I have to do that. So what does that look like? X multiplied by x plus 2 is x squared plus 2x. And with long division, what do? I subtract. And I'm left with x squared minus x squared is gone. 6x minus 2x is 4x. And then I bring that down, and I've got 4x plus 8. Let's take a look now what I need to do. Now I test. How many times does x right here go into 4x? Well, x goes into 4x 4 times. So I write plus 4. And then off to the side I write 4 times by x plus 2. X plus 2. And what is 4 times x plus 2? It is nothing other than 4x. That's it. And now I subtract. 4x taken away 4x is gone. 8 taken away 8 is gone. The remainder is 0. What do you think, folks? Is x plus 2 a factor of x squared plus 6x plus 8? I would say so. And I know that you know this anyway, because when you factor x squared plus 6x plus 8, it's going to be x plus 2, x plus 4. So I really didn't need to do that long division, right? So let's try more. And let's say number 3 would be is 2x plus 1, a factor of, whoops, my apologies. That's not the one I'm going to do right now. I'm going to keep things fairly simple. Is x minus 3 a factor of 2x cubed plus 6x squared plus 5. Well, what's interesting about that is there's no, well, if you had the number 1047, do you write that as 147, or why do you have to have the 0 there? Well, for place value purposes, right? This would only be 147, so you can't do that. So you're going to notice something here. There's no x term, so here's how we do this. So we're looking, does x plus 3 go in evenly or without a remainder to 2x cubed plus 6x squared plus 0x plus 5. All right, we've got to put that 0x, and I'll put an underline there, to maintain what's called place value, basically, for polynomials. Okay, so how many times does x go into 2x cubed? Well, it goes in 2x cubed divided by x is 2x squared. So it's 2x squared times by x minus 3. So up top, that's going to be it goes in 2x squared times, and then I multiply that through, and I should get 2x cubed minus 3 times 2 is 6x squared, and then I subtract, and I should always get those first terms subtracting out. So now I've got, if you look at this, I've got 6 minus negative 6x squared, which is going to give me 12x squared, and I bring this down, plus 0x. Whoops. Oh, there, and then what we need to do is to move this up. So now I need to check and see. I'll rewrite that. My apologies. That's 12x squared plus 0x. And now I need to see how many times this x goes into 12x squared. Well, x goes into 12x squared 12x times. So now I need 12x squared times by x minus 3. So what is that worth? 12x squared oh, it's not 12x squared, sorry, it's 12x times x minus 3, which gives me 12x squared, and then minus 36x. Okay, so let's see then. What I do is I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to, of course, subtract like I always do. So I subtract that and cross those out because that subtracts to 0, and now I've got 0 minus negative 36x. Well, that's going to give me 36x, and I bring down the plus 5. And now I've got to see how many times does x go into 36x. Okay, how many times does this x go into 36x? And let's see. I think it will go in 36 times. And it does. So now, same thing. I'm always doing that. So let's see here. Let's move this up so I can get, or move it over here so I can get a bit more room right there. And now I need to multiply out 36 times by x minus 3. So let's move that up. 36 times x minus 3 is going to give me 36x, and 36 times 35 times 3 is 105, so that's minus 108. And then, of course, I subtract. So what am I left with? The 36x's subtract out, and then I've got 5 minus negative 108, which is 5 plus 108. That's 113. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my remainder. So if you look at this, I've got 2x squared plus 12x plus 36, but I've got a remainder of 113. So I now can say for sure that, that x minus 3 is definitely not a factor. Therefore, x minus 3 is not a factor, as r does not equal 0. Okay, remainder's not 0. And that's really the purpose of long division, is so we can guess and check to see if we have factors. And this would be for factoring questions that we can't factor by grouping or by quadratics in x squared or by trinomials. So this is going to allow us to factor when we don't have a specific strategy that we can use. All right, so that's the way you do polynomial long division. I guess the only other thing I want to talk about is how you actually write your answer. And I'll maybe just lift this up a bit. So what we had was, well, let's actually do it this way. When I did how many times does 4 go into 13, and it was 3 with r equaling 1, what I really am writing is 13 divided by 4 equals 3 plus 1/4. Okay, so there's your r, and there's that. So what does it mean? Well, if I'm going to number things, 13 is going to represent, and there's proper vocabulary here, but let's call this the numerator. Let's call this the denominator or divisor. This right here is the answer. That's called the quotient. And this right here would be the remainder. And then this over here again is the denominator, the original denominator. So when I go to write an answer for something like this, it comes in that format. So if I had, for example, let's look at this very last question here, which is way up here. Actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to get up there. You know what? I probably need. So the general formula then is your numerator, your denominator equals the quotient plus the remainder divided by the denominator in the division. Now, really, this is a fraction. It's just easier terms or vocabulary for you to remember. This is the divisor. Okay, and this is the dividend, I believe. But numerator over denominator equals the quotient plus the remainder over the denominator. Okay, so you're going to do that, and you'll have to represent it the same way. We'll go through some more of that in class right there, and it's also in your textbook. So folks, that's a screencast on polynomial long division.